All right, in this video, I want to go over a topic that I worked with a student on a few weeks ago, and it's rates of change of polar functions. And this is from AP Pre-Calculus. And what we want to do is we want to look at the relationship between R and whether R is increasing or decreasing. And we want to look at, is the distance between the function and the pole increasing or is it decreasing? Or in other words, are we getting closer to the pole or are we getting farther away from the pole? All right, so let's look at what's happening between 0 and pi over 6. Now, it makes it easier to visualize when you can unwrap this polar graph into an xy graph like we did here. Okay, so from 0 to pi over 6, if I look on the polar graph, I can see I'm going from 0 to 6, and on the xy graph, this is what's happening. We're going from 0 to a peak at 6. So I can see here that the radius is increasing. All right. Now from pi over 6 to pi over 3, we can see we're looping back around and we're starting at 6 now for the radius and we're going back down to 0. So that is visualized here on this graph. So now from pi over 6 to pi over 3, we're actually decreasing. And then from pi over 3 to pi over 2, we are now negative. And if we look, we can see that the graph on the xy graph is decreasing, and the same thing's happening here. The R value is decreasing. We're actually going down this way here. Okay, so this is decreasing. And then from pi over 2 to 2 pi over 3, we're going back up. So the values are getting bigger, and we are increasing. All right, so let's take a look at how we can make some determinations using this information. Okay, so here's how you determine what's happening between with the function and the distance to the pole. So for example, from 0 to pi over 6, we determine that the r was increasing from 0 to pi over 6. We saw that the function's going up. Well, we want to know, is r positive or negative in this interval? We can see we're above the x-axis, so r is greater than 0. Okay, so that means if we are an increasing function and the r is positive, that means we are moving away from the pole. So the distance is getting greater. So we're getting farther away from the pole. If we go from pi over 6 to pi over 3, our r is still positive. But now what's happening? Well, since we're decreasing, we're moving towards the pole, r is positive, that means the distance is getting smaller. So the distance between the function and the pole is decreasing. All right. From pi over 3 to pi over 2, now we're dealing with negative r values. We are below the polar axis or the x-axis here. So r is negative and decreasing. So now this switches. So now you can see r is decreasing and negative, so we're moving farther away from the pole. And then in the last part, from pi over 2 to 2 pi over 3, r is increasing, but we have a negative r value, which means the distance is getting smaller, so we're getting closer to the pole. All right, so now let's fill out this distance from the pole chart using this information. So if our function is increasing, or if r is increasing and r is positive, that means that the distance is increasing. So we're getting farther away from the pole. If my r is positive, but my function is decreasing, or the r is getting smaller, that means that distance is getting smaller, so we are decreasing. The distance from the pole is decreasing. If r is negative and the function is increasing, now it flips. So that means that the r is getting smaller, but we're on the negative side. So that means that that distance to the pole is decreasing. And then if r is negative and the function is decreasing, we have a negative r, and r is decreasing, so we're going down, we're moving away from the pole, so that distance between r and the pole is increasing. Okay, let's try it using a table. So we have r is equal to f of theta. We have the values for theta and we have the values for r. Describe the behavior of the function on the interval 0 less than or equal to theta less than or equal to pi over 2. So what we first want to look at is to see if the r is positive or negative on this interval. So if we look from 0 to pi over 2, we can see that the r is greater than 0. Okay? So in this case here, r is positive. Okay? And what do we see here? We go from 0 to 2.5 to 4.33 to 5. So that means the function is increasing, or r is increasing. So we have r is positive and r is increasing, so we should be able to answer the question, what's happening between the function and the pole, the distance? So in this case here, the distance would increase. Distance is increasing. Okay, same thing now, looking at pi over 2 to pi. So in this case here, the r is still positive, but now r is decreasing. So in this case here, since the r is positive and decreasing, the distance between the function and the pole is actually decreasing. We're getting closer to the pole. So distance is decreasing. Okay? I hope that helped if you're studying this topic, and thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe.